Fawful, the mad genius Bean resident from the Mario and Luigi series. Not too much is known about this guy. He was originally the sidekick of an evil witch named Cacoletta, working for her towards the goal of total world conquest. But after she was defeated by the Mario Bros, instead of giving up, Fawful chose to take matters into his own hands, coming up with a scheme to manipulate everyone in the Mushroom Kingdom so that he may try his hand at conquest once again. And, as to be expected, it didn't go so well, not only being trounced by the Mario Bros yet again, but by Bowser as well. We haven't seen him since then, well, with him blowing himself up in a last-ditch effort to take the Bros and Bowser down with him, but today, he'll be attempting to conquer a whole new kind of world. The world of Super Smash Bros. So getting right into things, Fawful would be a pretty scrawny and somewhat sluggish character. He'd have 2 jumps and no additional movement options. Fawful really isn't all that physically capable. He's a stubby nerd who tends to put in way more brain power than he does muscle power. But as the old saying goes, brains over brawn. And he uses those smarts to equip himself with a very diverse variety of powerful weapons. And not only that, for this moveset, he'll also have access to a small amount of dark power, the same that he drained from the evil Dark Star. So he'll have a combination of both science and magic when fighting his enemies, turning him into a beanier version of Dr. Doom when you think about it. But starting with the science side of things, for his jab, he'll have a projectile jab having him fire a single weak flinching shot forwards from his ray gun. He'll be using this gun for a lot of different attacks, since it seems to have a ton of different functions when it comes to what can be fired from it, as we see in Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. It's used for many different things there. For Fawful's dash attack, now is when he rams you. This is one of the few physical attacks that he'll have, doing a few rolls forwards just like he does to attack the Mario Bros during your first fight with him at the beginning of Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Though just like during that fight, this move is pretty easily telegraphed, so it's best to only use it when you know it's safe. It also launches foes on contact despite him rolling multiple times. For his side tilt, this will have him shoot his ray gun forwards again, just like for his jab, turning this move into another Mega Man situation, allowing Fawful to walk around as he fires his gun. For the up tilt, Fawful will combine his weapons with his dark magic. He'll open a dark portal over his head, the same kind that he uses when fighting against Bowser in Bowser's Inside Story. And from that portal, the arm of one of his McCawful bots will fly out, punching straight upwards. This is a deceptively powerful move with excellent disjoint. The trade-off though is that it's easy to see coming, and it does have a bit of end lag, more than usual for up tilts, so it's also easily punishable. In fact, that'll be a common theme that you'll see for most of Fawful's attacks, pulling from the same theme that we see in the Mario and Luigi games when it comes to fighting enemies. Telegraphed attacks that are easily punishable. Fawful players need to play smart and think things through, just like Fawful does himself. Trying to be hasty like idiots of stupidity will only lead to your downfall. But the trade-off for having such telegraphed attacks is that they are very powerful and have excellent disjoint, making spacing and location for Fawful as he fights very important. Overall making Fawful a very high-risk yet high-reward character. After all, Fawful is the kind of guy who either goes big or goes home. Not all of his attacks though will follow this pattern. Some will be a bit safer to use, like his down tilt for example. This can be another roll move referencing his ram attack, only he rolls once this time. It slightly propels him forwards and it pops foes into the air. It's a quick move with little end lag, making it great mostly as a get away from me option. For Fawful's side smash, he once again pulls out his ray gun, but this time fires a powerful ray beam. The same kind that he used from his dome mech during his final fight in Superstar Saga. He fires it at a slightly downward angle, causing it to hit the ground at the peak of its range. If used off stage though, it just stops in the same spot where it would normally. This move also has some awkward launch angles. Getting hit by the beam trail launches foes into higher forward arcs, but getting hit by the peak of the beam will do more damage and launch them in the straighter angles. While easily punishable like the majority of his attacks, its great range and power should more than make up for it so long as you use it wisely. For Fawful's up smash, this will be the first to have him utilize that large yellow antenna that he used against the Mario Bros during his second fight in Superstar Saga. The antenna temporarily appears over his head, and he fires an energy orb projectile that's shot straight up. Then after reaching its peak height, starts to fall, landing in the spot in front of where Fawful initiated the up smash, working near identically to Snake's up smash. Any foe who is hit by the orb will be stunned in place for a bit before they're launched upwards, which will cause the energy orb to disappear immediately. If foes are hit by another orb while they're still stunned though, it just launches them instead, no extra stun. For Fawful's down smash, here's the first that has him fully tap into his dark magic. He starts spinning his finger in the air, causing 4 orbs of dark energy to appear and circle around him, directly referencing the attack used during his fight in Bowser's Inside Story, though it also references the same kind of attack that he uses in Superstar Saga with his dome mech. Foes hit by these orbs will be trapped in the attack, taking multi-hitting damage until they're launched at the end of the move. For the aerials, Fawful's neutral air can have him shoot stars from his ray gun that encircle around him, referencing the same attack from Bowser's Inside Story. He shoots a long line of these stars that fully cover whatever side of his body they're passing by, being long enough to cover half of the circumference. This is a semi-great attack to possibly neutralize airborne threats, and the stars do launch foes on contact. The forward air can have him fire a spiraling wave beam from his ray gun, the same beam that shot from his Dark McCawful mechs. This beam deals multi-hitting damage. The back air can have Fawful turn with his ray gun and fires a burst from the ice beam. It comes out pretty quickly, deals a lot of damage, and even has the chance to freeze foes who are at high percents. This attack references the ice beam that Fawful used on his henchman Midbis to power him up with ice powers. The up air can have Fawful once again grow his antenna and cause it to emit a small shock to deal multi-hitting damage to foes who touch it, and the down air can have Fawful open a dark portal underneath himself, leading to the drill of a McCawful to come stabbing out. This drill also deals multi-hitting damage, but if a foe is hit by every single strike of the move, then it spikes them at the end of the attack. To grab opponents, Fawful will use the tractor beam function of his ray gun to pull foes to him and hold them in place. He pummels by firing a small shock from the ray gun. The forward throw can simply have Fawful fire a strong shot to shoot them forwards. The back throw can be the same thing, only this time Fawful starts thinking with portals. He opens 2 dark portals, one behind himself and one behind the foe. Then, when he shoots them, they fly through the portal and come out of the one behind Fawful, flying into that direction. The up throw can once again be the same thing, except instead of opening a portal behind himself, Fawful opens it above his own head, causing the foe to fly upwards when shot through them. And for the down throw, Fawful opens a portal over the foe's head, causing a McCawful arm to fly out and smash the foe from above, burying them into the ground. This move is a subtle reference to the dunk hammer technique that the Mario Bros do, where Mario hammers Luigi into the dirt. Though more specifically, it also references when the bros hammered Fawful into the ground right before their fight with Cackletta. So I guess you can say this down throw is Fawful getting his just comeuppance. So being this far in, there's probably one major question on many of your minds right now. Where's Fawful's main weapon? His greatest creation, his go-to tool, his iconic headgear? Well, just like in his games, his headgear will be one of Fawful's most important assets. So important, in fact, that all of his special attacks are dedicated to it. In other words, the basic attacks have Fawful attack, and the special attacks have the headgear attack. Not only that, but the headgear is also the core part to one of Fawful's unique mechanics for this moveset. Fawful will have the ability to either have his headgear with him or have it away from him on its own, turning Fawful into a type of puppeteer character, fitting considering how forcefully controlling he likes to be. You'll be able to separate or bring them together with the use of Fawful's down special. If the headgear is with him, using down special will cause the headgear to leave him. And if the headgear is away from him, using down special has the headgear automatically fly back to Fawful. Now if you have the headgear with Fawful, he wears it on his head. Wearing it slightly increases Fawful's survivability, and it also gives him access to a grand total of 5 jumps. He only has 2 when he's not wearing the headgear. When the headgear is separated from Fawful, it kinda just flies around on its own accord, not really doing much unless you use any of the special attacks. That's when it'll start fighting. When you do use the special attacks from the headgear, they slightly behave differently depending on whether Fawful is wearing it or not. I'll go over those differences when I go over the attacks themselves. Lastly, the headgear does have its own health as well, and after taking a certain amount of damage, it'll blow up, which can hurt players, including Fawful. This can happen whether or not Fawful is wearing it, so while having it on can potentially soak up some damage for Fawful, this also means he's guaranteed to be caught in its explosion if the headgear runs out of health while he's wearing it. So the only way to avoid that is to make sure that he's not wearing the headgear when you think it's close to exploding. After exploding, the headgear will automatically respawn after a certain amount of time, and it will always reappear on Fawful's head when it does so. So with the gist of how the headgear and its down special works, here are the attacks that the headgear is able to use with the other 3 specials. Starting with the neutral special, that'll have the headgear fire green energy shots, the most common form of attack that we see Fawful use over the course of Superstar Saga. It's a simple projectile attack that moves kinda slowly, but they deal pretty good damage and knockback and disappear on impact. Also, only 2 shots can be on screen at a time. Failure will occur if you try shooting a third. While Fawful is wearing the headgear, at default the shots are fired forwards at a slight downward angle, but you can use the control stick to aim it up or down as well to change its trajectory. If the headgear is on its own, then you won't be able to manually aim the shots. Instead, the headgear will always automatically aim at the nearest opponent on its own, but it always aims at where the foes were, not where they're going to be, so it's pretty bad at leading its shots. Regardless, it's still great for stage control, and if you work in tandem with the headgear, you can set up all kinds of mean traps to take your foes off guard. Next, for the side special, this will be the headgear's most versatile attack. It has so much functionality. If you tap the command, the headgear will spray its experimental gas. This gas obstructs the view underneath it, and foes within it take constant damage, just like with the Piranha Plant side special. Only this gas doesn't deal nearly as much damage as the plant's poison. This is because it does way more than just deal damage, cause this isn't a poisonous gas, it's Fawful's brainwashing gas. Foes who touch it will have their controls reversed for a couple of seconds, and if this is used on assist trophies, they become Fawful's allies for a little bit. The gas does all of that regardless of whether Fawful's wearing the headgear or not. However, it does gain one extra function if it's used while the headgear is on its own. Fawful himself stepping in the gas sprayed from the separated headgear will actually heal him. Thankfully though, not nearly as much as it does in Bowser's Inside Story. It only heals him a tiny bit at a time, maybe at most 3% per spray, assuming Fawful is in the cloud for its full duration. That sounds like a pitiful amount, but considering that Fawful has access to this function at all times so long as the headgear is around, any more than that I feel would be too broken. This gas is very strong, but you do need to be wary when using it, because it does count as a projectile, so foes with reflectors could easily turn it around on Fawful, and could even heal from the gas themselves. Now all that said, the gas is just what you get from the side special if you tap the button. If you hold the button down, instead of spray, it'll suck, making use of the headgear's vacuum function. While the button is held down, the headgear begins inhaling forwards, working like many other suction specials in Smash, able to inhale for as long as the button is held down, but it will automatically stop after a bit. The vacuum is able to inhale items, projectiles, and even other players. If it inhales an item or projectile, they're just swallowed and turned into energy, which actually powers up the next energy shot fired with the neutral special by a pretty substantial amount. If a player is inhaled, they're automatically spat back out, but when that happens, it also randomly chooses one of their basic attacks and disables that move, making them unable to use that attack for around the next 10 seconds. The vacuum also functions identically whether with or away from Fawful. The only thing that changes is that with Fawful, the suction is aimed straight forwards, and when away, it's aimed slightly downward. And for the headgear's up special, this will have it do a charge attack, letting the headgear do a soaring charge tackle into any direction based on controller input. While Fawful is wearing the headgear, he flies along with it, which can be used as recovery. Fawful is also able to extend his charge and change direction by smashing the control stick into a new direction mid-charge. Another great mix-up option, and to give him a bit more range when recovering, but the direction change can only be done once per use, and after the special ends, Fawful will go into freefall. If the headgear is separated, it just charges on its own. It's much weaker as an attack compared to when Fawful is wearing it, but this version can be used as often as you want, allowing you to effectively control the placement of the separated headgear. It does stall for a bit after each charge though, so it can't really be spammed, but this can still make it a potentially scary edge guarding tool. Overall, Fawful's moveset is designed around deception, manipulation, and underhanded tactics. You have to play to Fawful's strengths to catch your opponents off guard, trick them into falling into many traps by taking control of the arena, and above all else, don't let them gain any momentum. You have to be one step ahead of them at all times. You need to play smart. Not thinking through your actions will only leave you vulnerable, and you'll find yourself getting more frustrated than anything else. Then again, in this case, that might not always be a bad thing. Fawful will have his own personal comeback rage mechanic that I'm going to call I Have Fury. Referencing the Fury status that bosses in the Mario and Luigi games get after losing a certain amount of health. When Fawful takes a certain amount of damage, let's say around 100% like Kazuya, he enters a Fury state. While he has Fury, he gains a slightly small speed boost, and all of his attacks deal a bit of extra damage. He remains in Fury for the remainder of the stock, which may seem broken, but considering how frail Fawful is, by the time he gets Fury, he may not be holding on to it for very long anyway. For Fawful's final smash, he pulls into the full evil power of the Dark Star. It starts with him screaming, "I have darkness!" And in a puff of purple smoke, his body is turned into Dark Bowser, who then begins inhaling into the direction that Fawful was facing. All foes within range will be inhaled into Dark Bowser's body, initiating a cinematic final smash. It plays out with the foes inside of Dark Bowser's body, and they're met by Fawful in his monstrous Dark Parasite form. He relentlessly attacks the foes with many powerful moves, then ends the final smash by firing onto them a powerful dark beam, dealing major damage and ending the cinematic. Afterwards, the foes are spat out by Dark Bowser, being launched away, and Dark Bowser dissipates, just revealing Fawful, who re-emerges from the smoke. For Fawful's colors, his default would have him in a usual red-colored cloak. Whether he wears the one from Superstar Saga or Bowser's Inside Story, I don't really know. I prefer the one from Superstar Saga, so I'll stick with that one for this moveset. His first alternate color can be a yellow cloak, referencing when he impersonated a Bean Ambassador at the beginning of Superstar Saga. His second can be a gray cloak, in reference to the cloak that he wore to hide himself from Bowser at the beginning of Bowser's Inside Story. Then here's a purple cloak, which can be in reference to Fawful's original boss, the Witch Cacoletta. Then here we have an alternate costume, with Fawful wearing his pink acrobat suit, the same that he wore when confronting the Mario Bros at the end of Superstar Saga. And while bringing this up, I should also mention, the antenna that he usually has with this suit will only appear for the associated attacks. And on top of that, if he's wearing the headgear whenever he uses those antenna attacks, the headgear will just quickly disappear when the antenna appears, then as soon as the antenna disappears, the headgear will reappear. Moving on, the jumpsuit will have one alternate color, bearing the same white color that he has with it for his cameo appearance in Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. Then here's a second alternate costume for Fawful, but this time he bears the attire of Dark Fawful, the form that he takes after siphoning a portion of the Dark Star's power. And this will also have an alternate color, just making Fawful a full black color, referencing to when he first absorbed the power, as well as when he was defeated by Bowser and became the pure black parasite form. For his stage intro, his dome mech emerges from the ground, then opens up with Fawful coming out, after which the mech disappears back into the ground. For his taunts, his first can have him start angrily flapping his arms, even gaining a little bit of liftoff, just like he does when in his acrobat suit. And during this, he yells his most iconic line, "I have fury!" His second can have him start spinning in place like a ballerina, and during this, he'll say his other most iconic line, "I have Chortles!" And for his third, he'll hold his hand to his side, then put it by his ear like he's listening for his adoring audience's cheer. And while he does this, he'll yell, "Hi!" And finally, for Fawful's victory animations, for all three of them, spotlights from Lakitus will shine down on Fawful, catering to Fawful's love of theater. For the first, Fawful will be shown doing a jiggy hip shake, and he yells, "Fawful is king of everything!" His second can have him waving to the crowd, then start maniacally laughing. And his final can have him do a marching dance, then pose with a large grin. During this, he'll shout with pride, "I have victory!" And that does it for What If Fawful was in Smash! So, if you enjoyed what you saw and would like to see even more characters be given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to support the show and help me be able to make more content for you guys, you can click the join button either below the video or my main page to become a sponsor for my channel. Doing so will get you access to my private Discord as well as channel emotes. You can guarantee that your name appears in my videos, or even get the option of knowing what if character is coming up next a week in advance. I really appreciate anything that can be contributed. And of course, if you have a character that you want to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below or contact me on Twitter at RawFan1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching!